So, Swim Lessons Live. The goal is to allow you moms and dads to have a way to keep working on these super important life-saving skills regardless of the situation with being able to access a traditional swim lesson. That this is something that I really believe can be done. The reason why I know you can teach your own kids how to swim is because I teach so many instructors how to do this that have no idea what they're doing working with kids. Really, maybe they've been lifeguards and they have a certification, WSI, but interacting with kids, they probably have as much experience as you did whenever you first had your child. Most people are unlike me with having basically a career around kids. Most people, the first time they have an experience working with kids is when they have their own. So what this Swim Lesson Live is all about is teaching you exactly what to be doing right now, whether it's in a bathtub or if you can get access to a pool. That's going to help establish some muscle memory for your kids, that they're going to have a good reaction to the water sensation. Instead of trying to stand up, they're going to be relaxed. We want them to not be sensitive to the water on their face. So there's ways of working on that. The way you want to hold your kids in the water is super important, and then all the things you're doing while you are going through the swim lesson. You want to have a focus the entire time. So you really want to have a structure. You want to always do basically three skill practices in every single class. You want to practice water safety skills. You want to work on the sensitivity. You want to work on the sensitivity of the water on the face, and then get them to the point where they're able to go underwater and exhale, maybe just with their nose and mouth at first, and not actually blowing bubbles, but exhaling through their nose, a forceful growl. I teach growling or humming because some kids, believe it or not, will actually get scared just at the word growl. So I guess because their imaginations are just so on fire that just the word can just create an actual emotion. So be careful with some kids that actually look like they may get a little scared about the word growl. All right, so let's imagine that we're going to do our swim lesson. So we're going to have dedicated time, ideally each day. I mean, if you're doing this at home, work on this every day, even in the bathtub, because you want to, again, this is all through repetition. So you're conditioning these skills. So you want to do it as often as possible. Typically with regular swim lessons, most of our clients will do it once a week or twice a week, and you're going to have this very slow progression. The more you actually are working on these skills, the faster your kids are going to be able to swim. Now, what age do you think kids can actually swim? Well, it will surprise you. I mean, swimming was relative. So what I call swimming is actually being able to get from point A to point B and taking breaths. What a lot of people will call swimming would be holding your breath and just getting from one point to another, even if that point is in the middle of the pool. You want to always be conditioning going back to the wall and return to the wall, but the way you actually have to breathe, you have to exhale to take breaths. So just going underwater and just going for it isn't enough. And then you have the method, which is, I don't oppose anything that helps kids to swim faster, but if you get dependent upon a conditioned skill like rolling over on your back because you've done it in a repetitious way and it becomes instilled, as soon as you stop doing it in that format, it's going to go away. And then that's not there allows them to be able to be mobile. They can float on their back and then they can turn over and keep going, but it's not nearly as, in my opinion, safe as being able to take a breath and being able to sight where you're going and going back underwater. And floating, a lot of times, you can float if you just hold your breath, but if you actually hold your breath when you're trying to swim, you're going to cause a lot of problems. You're going to hold your breath and you're not going to be able to take a breath when you lift your head up. You have to be able to exhale underwater to take a breath. So that's where I don't necessarily agree with the concept of just conditioning to roll over on their back, but I do agree with conditioning the behavior of returning to the wall. So let's say you're not in a bathtub, you actually get to get into a pool. So I like to find areas that are very shallow. Kids will spend most of their time in very shallow water. If you think about it, they'll spend time in splash pads and and step areas. So this is the area that you want to practice in, and you want to practice getting them to be very comfortable with the sensations. And you can do that by having them even put their hands on the bottom and allowing their legs to float so they can kind of crawl with their. This is going to help kids that have some anxiety to start to get more comfortable with the buoyancy. The more they relax, the more their bodies are going to float. So working in a shallow area like this is ideal. I always want kids to be able to get on their bellies and be able to relax in that position. But before you do that, especially if a child has some level of anxiety, you're going to want to work on some face sensitivity stuff. So you can do this with a lot of fun things. You can use buckets. I use my hand a lot of the time because I like to try to teach this as if you don't have like all the stuff. I have plenty of things that I'm going to show you, but just starting out, let's imagine your child has a lot of anxiety because there's the worst thing that can happen is if a child has a bad experience, that's going to stick with them. It gets very difficult for them to get comfortable in the water. So, and then you can even have a child that's had a bad experience and you didn't even realize it. So they could be doing very good in swim lessons, and then the next thing you know, they're getting weird about the water. It's because they probably are doing like the hold your breath thing, and they feel like they can't breathe, so that can freak some kids out. Or they just, they suck in some water, and that could be enough. So you want to make sure that if they have some anxiety, really in general, even if a child comes to me and I don't know really much about their background, I'm going to test. I'm going to try to be fun. Okay, let's do bubble bath. Bubble bath is great because it's working on pushing the water and getting them to feel the water. And okay, now then we're going to do splashes. So bubble bath, splashes, and I'm trying to get a little bit of drips. And now if I know they're anxious, I'm not going to even do that. I'm going to start with pouring water on their ears, back of their head, and then I'm going to move to their face. But I'm always going to count to 3 before I do that. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Why do you want to do that? Well, you want to count to 3 because you are setting up cueing. You want to teach unconsciously your child to be tuned into 3, and that's going to help you whenever you're doing a conditioning skill exercise of going underwater eventually. You're going to count to 3 when you do that. So everything is on 3, especially leaving the side of the pool. You want to always do everything on 3. So 1, 2, 3, pour. So 1, 2, 3, pour on the back of the head. Now, once you get to the face, if they have a bad response to that, then you can apply pressure to their face like this. And it's a magic trick. It really makes a big difference for their escalation of that anxiety reaction. What can happen is they start to get so freaked out just by water in the face because it hurts them. They have I'm not sure what goes on in the brain of a child, but I know it's vivid, and I know that their reaction that's negative to water on their face is very real. So we want to, if we see them freaking out, we want to immediately address it. Oh, it's okay. Watch, here's a magic trick. And do this. You can actually put your hands on their face and apply a little bit of pressure. Tell them to do that. The older kids, it gives them a sense of control. So back to how old is it a kid can actually swim? I forgot. I got a little bit up on a tangent. Sorry. So most kids that are working with us are able to swim, exhaling, taking breaths between early 2s, 2.5, 3, 2 to 3, and then 3 on up, it starts to be a much faster progression. That's as long as you have a very dedicated time to working on this, and even if it's once a week, you should see steady progression every single class. So we're working on the water sensitivity. So we want to get to the point where instead of just pouring a little bit of water on the ears and then on the back of the head, we're doing lots of water, 1, 2, 3, and then a full bucket. And we want to make it very fun. So bubble bath. Let's make it rain, bubble bath. Make it fun, and that will help them to redirect themselves. If as soon as you see your child start to have a negative reaction, you want to find something for them to redirect. You want to look, if you're outside, oh, there's a plane. Oh, look at this. Look at that cloud. That cloud looks like, what does that look like? You want to get their brains off of whatever is causing them anxiety and move them on to something that is positive. And then you're going to start to establish a positive association. It's like it's magic. Okay, so we're doing a lot of pours. 1, 2, 3, pour. And now, if they're another thing that you can do, if they're really not good about having water on their face, you can have them put their ears in the water because they're touching their cheeks, and that helps a lot with just working on that water sensitivity. And whenever I am holding them, I'll do a lot of that. I'll do a lot of ear dips. I do the ear dips for that same purpose of just trying to desensitize them to the water on their face. So, okay, so we've done a lot of the water splashing. Okay, that's really, really good. Okay, so let's go for a swim. So I'm going to hold them underneath their arms. Now, when you're holding them and you're holding them out of the water, they're going to feel very heavy. I call that a sack of potatoes. Or you're holding them like a sack of potatoes. That's kind of how it feels for me when I'm holding a kid out of water, honestly. I feel like they're like a sack of potatoes. So you want them to kind of float in your hands. Now, you don't want them floating in your hands with their feet underneath them. You want them to allow their legs to float. So you can actually position them in the water with your wrist action. So if most of the time when you start to do this, your instinct is going to be 1, 2, 3, hold them high in the water so they're not feeling the buoyancy, right? So that's the other thing that causes problems with learning to swim is the sensation of buoyancy. If they're not feeling that sensation, then you're not helping them. It's super important that you let them float in your hands. Okay, so remember, we're going to go off the wall. We're always going to do it on 3, and we're always going to return back to the wall. All right, so we're going to go for a swim. What should I call you? I should call you Mr. Bubbles? Mr. Bubbles. Mr. Bubbles is over there, and he's looking kind of sad. He needs some air. I don't really have... How about you? I'll call you Blue. Hey, Blue. Hi, how are you? All right, you ready for doing some swimming? He says yes. All right, well, that's good. Okay, so the first thing, we're going to pour water on your face, okay? You don't like that? You don't like that idea? Is that a bad idea? Okay, how about this? How about I make it rain? Make it rain, make it rain, make it rain. It's really raining. He's freaking out. Can't you see? Look at his eyes. Freaking out. It's okay. It's okay, Mr. Blue. It's okay. Don't worry. The water is just... What does that feel like to you? That is really important. See? You're helping me out, Mr. Blue. Thanks a lot. So you want to find out what it is that is bugging them, because they'll tell you sometimes. But a lot of times they have no idea. And once they start to think about it and they realize that, they don't know, it's like sometimes a light bulb will go off. But I can tell Mr. Blue, hey, Mr. Blue, this is a magic trick. You want to know a magic trick? I'm going to teach you a magic trick. If the water goes on your face like that, oh, sorry, then you can just push your hands on your face like this. It goes away. Isn't that better? Not quite that hard. You get my point, all right? Good job, Mr. Blue. All right, we're going to go for a swim. So, man, Mr. Blue, you're very floaty. I don't have to worry about holding you up like a sack of potatoes. All right, we're going to do 1, 2, 5. Woo! So I'm trying to get them to tune into 3, right? So after I've done a couple of 1, 2, 3s and back to the wall, I want to get them to make sure they're not going to try to leave the wall until they hear that cue. So 1, 2, 3, let's go, Mr. Blue, good job. All right, holding you underneath your arms. Mr. Blue doesn't really have arms that I can, get my hands underneath, but you want your thumb and index finger right underneath their arms, and they're going to kind of float right in your hands, and they shouldn't feel like a sack of potatoes, right? All right, good job, Mr. Blue, all right. And so now I'm letting them float. Now you can actually take a hand off, and they're going to float right in front of you. So when you first are trying this, make sure you keep your elbows in, and you don't want to ever get fully extended with your arms. You always want to have your elbows bent. It's going to help you maintain control of them in the water. Okay, fly over here. Thank you. Fly over here. Good job. Okay, we're going to go back. So I'm holding him underneath his arms, and he's facing me, so that's good. So I can do 1, 2, 3. I can do pours. I can do 5s. It's helping them to be more comfortable with the buoyancy. And now I'm going to turn him around, and we're going to go back over to our little splash pad. Mr. Blue, we're turning around. Okay. And I'm going to turn around. Now I'm going to switch my hands. So I'm holding him underneath his arms. When I do this, I can have Mr. Blue go on my arm, so he's holding on my arm. Ah, sorry, Mr. Blue. And then I switch my hands. So I'm holding here, and then I am going to have Mr. Blue turn into my arm. That way I can reach over Mr. Blue. You're very buoyant. Now I can hold him underneath his arms, and we're going the other way. You don't want to get crossed up, but holding him this way where you're, let's do this again. People get all tangled up doing this. All right, you're facing me, that's good, 5, 5. All right, so we're gonna turn around, Mr. Blue. Okay, when you turn, he's grabbing on my arm. Now, I'm releasing and I'm reaching over him, getting back underneath his arms. Still no sack of potatoes, right? Floating on the water. Go back to the blue. 1, 2, 3. Back to the pad. All right? We're going to do that again. Ready? 1, 2, 5. No, wait. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. All right, 5 over here. 5 over here. Good job. And make it rain. 1, 2, 3. Make it rain. All right. I'm going to turn around. Good job, Mr. Blue. I'm going to reach back. Good job, Mr. Blue. That's very good. Oh, that's great. You're getting much better about water on your face. Sorry. Let's do this one more time. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's great. Good job. All right. So the next thing we got to do, Mr. Blue, you ready to try a game? I like games. So you want to try to have some fun games that works on these different skills. So one of my favorite and one of the kids' favorite is like I do like washing machine or candy machine. So I ask them, so what do you want to do? Washing machine or candy machine? Even if they have no idea what that is, you ask them and they'll choose. It's awesome. All right, I want to do washing machine. Okay, so the washing machine, it's better to hold him so he's facing away, and then I can pull him through the water, wash, and then I can take one hand off and kind of move the water and splash him, and that just to kind of make that water playing, splashing a lot of fun. And then as I'm doing this, I want to keep my hands underneath his arms, try to always keep his legs behind him because I don't want him standing up. That's the sinking position, floating in my hands. One ear in, other ear in, and and then the candy machine just is up and down a little bit more. So the up and down is really important if they have a feeling of falling that causes problems. So a lot of times what you'll find when you take the kid off the wall, 1, 2, 3, is they'll immediately try to stand up. The older they are, the more they're going to do that. So as they stand up, say, no, don't stand up. Don't kick. No kicking. Kicking is not good at this level. You want your legs relaxed. That's going to allow you to be more buoyant on top of the water. So no kicking. Let your legs float. Good. All right. 5. So whenever you're doing even the games, okay, I'm turning them around when I'm doing my games, I want to make sure that I'm always kind of letting him float with his legs in the right position, getting his ears in, not holding them out of the water, making sure that he's really floating. Always, obviously making sure that you're not, dunking him, but you want him to be constantly feeling the buoyancy. It's super important. And the same thing with, getting the water on their face. You want to do that in as many fun ways as you possibly can. Now, once they're really good about water on their face, then we're going to work on, and I'm going to stop at this part because this is what I really want anyone that is seeing this to practice and to focus on really until the next time would be on the actual getting your kids to be able to put their hands on the bottom of like a bathtub so that you may not have access to a pool in your backyard. A lot of people, have bathtubs, right? I would say a vast majority of them. So on the bathtub, you just put enough water so they can put their hands down and float their legs. It's not the same if their knees are touching. Legs should be floating. And then you want to do sing to the fishes or growl to the fishes and catch a cloud. So when we do this, catch a cloud. When they do the catch a cloud thing, what will happen is a lot of times they'll scrunch. This is like the most important thing that prevents anyone from being able to do a pop-up breath is that tension in the neck and the shoulders. It prevents you from looking up. Catch a cloud and then sing to the fishes. Catch a cloud, sing to the fishes. Work on the water sensitivity. Work on getting the water on their face and being able to do buckets of water. Work on getting them to float their legs behind and growling. You want to get to the point where they can actually put their whole face in. Catch a cloud and sing the fishes. You want to make sure that they don't have any issues with their ears in the water because the water goes in the ears and it causes some kids to really be uncomfortable. So having them listen to the fishes and you want to have toys that are going to be designed or going to be something that even that you would pick out with them that they use only for swim practice. And this is going to be great for getting him to look down. Also, goggles. Goggles are an important tool for just getting over the water sensitivity because it allows them to keep their eyes open underwater. And obviously, if you put your face in the water, your natural reaction is going to be to close your eyes. So goggles are really important because it's going to get them overall to be more relaxed. And you want them to get to the point where they can. And by the way, when you put goggles on, you want to make sure that the straps are high. You don't want them too low like that. They're not going to even work. And the seals need to go underneath the eyebrows, just like this. And you want to get your kids to be looking at like your little like sinker toy right on the bottom, and we're gonna sing the fishes catch a cloud. We're gonna do this 3 times, okay? And then so you get them in their bathtub and their hands are on the bottom, and then sing the fishes. No, all the way in. No, all the way in. Catch a cloud. Sing the fish. You get them very good at that. Whenever you come up and you actually let your air out, your lungs will grab a breath. It makes it so much easier for a child to be comfortable in the water and to be able to be mobile when they can actually breathe, okay? All right, so I'm not sure on the timing on this, but this is kind of a test just to kind of get the tech right and kind of see overall what the format is. But what I would like anyone that ends up watching this video is, what are some of the biggest problems you've run into in a swimming lesson process? I know that there's lots of kids that struggle learning and it can be very frustrating. So what are some of those things? I believe that a lot of it could be alleviated by doing this drill. And even an older, like 4-year-old or 5-year-old or any kid that can fit in the bathtub, right? Doing this is going to help so much. I have adults that I tell them to just fill up buckets in the shower and just slowly pour. And just, you want to desensitize yourself. So when you're underwater, you are just focused on exhaling so that when you come up, you can easily take a breath. And then get right back underwater. The longer you keep your head up, the more your legs are going to come underneath you, puts you in that sinking position. So you have to be very quick about that breath. And the only way to do that is by exhaling. If you hold your breath and you come up to take a breath, guess what? You can't take a breath on top of a breath. Try it. Take a breath. Take another one.